Hello, and welcome to the Sleep Stories. We find a place where you can feel completely at ease, a place where the weight of your day can begin to soften and release. We allow your body to settle, your shoulders to relax, and your breathing to find its own slow, quiet rhythm. There is nothing for you to do now, nothing to solve, and nowhere you need to be other than right here, resting. Tonight, we will not journey with our bodies, but with our minds. We will let our awareness drift like a single, weightless feather on a gentle current of air, back through the mists of time, back to a world lit only by the sun, the moon, and the soft glow of a fire. We let the sounds around you fade, and allow my voice to be a quiet guide as we travel together to a simple cottage nestled in the green hills of the English countryside on a peaceful morning long, long ago. Our journey begins in the deep velvet stillness that comes just before the dawn. The year is 1325. The world is hushed, blanketed in a cool silver-gray light that is not yet morning, but no longer truly night. The moon, a pale sliver of polished bone, has already begun its slow descent behind the distant sleeping hills, leaving behind a sky awash with a countless multitude of stars, each one a tiny shimmering pinprick in an endless canopy of deep, silent indigo. There is a profound quiet here, a quiet so complete that you can almost feel the gentle turning of the earth itself. The only sounds are the soft, whisper-thin rustle of a light breeze stirring the leaves in the nearby woods, and the distant, melodic call of a lone nightingale, its song a liquid thread of silver weaving through the silence. Below this immense and peaceful sky, the land lies sleeping. The fields, which in the autumn were golden with wheat and barley, now lie fallow, resting under a fine, cool blanket of dew that glimmers faintly in the starlight. The air is clean and crisp, carrying the sweet, earthy fragrance of damp soil, of wet leaves, and of the faint, lingering scent of wood smoke from hearth fires that have burned down to soft, glowing embers. A gentle mist clings to the low-lying hollows, pooling in the valleys like a soft white sea, its edges slowly dissolving into the darkness. It is a world of soft edges and muted colors, a world deep in slumber. Our attention, adrift on the quiet air, begins to drift downwards towards a small cluster of dwellings that huddle together for warmth and companionship. This is a small village, a hamlet of perhaps a dozen homes, their thatched roofs dark and heavy with moisture, their simple forms seeming to have grown from the very earth upon which they stand. There are no straight lines here, no harsh angles. The walls of the cottages, made of a simple mixture of woven branches and clay, known as wattle and daub, are gently curved and uneven, their surfaces a tapestry of earthy textures. They look soft in the pre-dawn light, like sleeping animals curled against the side of the hill. We float closer, drawn to one cottage in particular. It sits near the edge of a small, meandering stream, whose quiet, gurgling song is a constant, soothing presence. This cottage is small and humble, with a single door and no windows, only small shuttered openings to let out the smoke and let in the light of day. The roof, a thick cap of straw and reeds, is a miniature ecosystem of its own, home to patches of soft green moss and tiny, resilient wildflowers that have taken root in its depths. A thin, almost invisible tendril of smoke rises from a small hole in the roof, a pale gray ribbon unfurling against the dark sky, a sign of the gentle life stirring within. Let us drift now, gently, through the thick wooden door, passing through it as if we are made of mist ourselves. Inside, the air is warm and close, filled with a complex but not unpleasant mingling of scents. There is the earthy smell of the packed dirt floor, the faint, sweet perfume of dried herbs and flowers hanging in bunches from the wooden rafters above, the comforting aroma of sleeping bodies, and the ever-present, reassuring scent of old wood smoke that has seeped into the very bones of the little house. The space is a single large room, and its darkness is not empty, but full of soft sounds. From a corner comes the gentle, rhythmic sound of slow, deep breathing. Here the family sleeps together on a low bed, a simple wooden frame filled with a deep mattress of clean, dry straw. It is not the kind of bed you might know, but it is warm and welcoming. On top of the straw is a collection of woolen blankets, spun and woven by hand, their textures thick and slightly coarse, but providing a deep and comforting warmth against the cool night air. The family, a man, a woman, and 2 small children, are huddled together. There forms a gentle landscape of rising and falling chests, their faces peaceful in the dimness. Near them, a small, shaggy dog is curled into a tight ball, its tail giving a soft, sleepy thump against the floor as it dreams. In the center of the room, the source of the cottage's warmth, is a small, circular hearth, a shallow pit lined with stones. The fire has been carefully banked for the night, covered in ash to keep the precious embers alive until morning. Now it glows with a soft, deep, pulsating red, like a sleeping heart. This faint, gentle light casts long, slowly shifting shadows that dance on the textured walls, making the familiar shapes of the room seem mysterious and new. A large, black iron pot sits beside the hearth, cool now, but waiting for the morning meal. Simple wooden bowls and spoons are stacked neatly on a low shelf, their surfaces worn smooth by years of use. Along one wall leans a large wooden loom, its threads a complex web of silent potential, a story waiting to be told. This is the home of a weaver, a place of simple craft and quiet diligence. Everything in this small space speaks of use, of purpose, of a life lived in close connection with the materials of the earth. The wood of the rafters, the clay of the walls, the straw of the beds, the wool of the blankets. It is a world woven together from the gifts of the land. And now, as we hover in the warm, quiet air of the cottage, we begin to notice a subtle change. The deep indigo of the sky outside is slowly, almost imperceptibly, beginning to soften. The light filtering through the small cracks in the wooden shutters is shifting from silver gray to a pale, luminous pearl. The first tentative notes of the dawn chorus begin to sound from the trees outside. A single clear note from a robin, answered by another, then another, until a gentle symphony of birdsong begins to swell, a soft and joyful welcome to the new day. Inside the cottage, the deep rhythm of sleep begins to change. The woman stirs first, her breathing shallowing. She sighs softly, a small cloud of warm air in the cool room, and slowly opens her eyes. For a long moment she simply lies there, listening to the birds, feeling the warmth of her family beside her. There is no sudden start to the day here, no jarring alarm. The world awakens slowly, gently, in harmony with the rising sun. She slips from the bed, her bare feet making no sound on the cool, packed earth of the floor. Her movements are slow and deliberate, honed by years of these same quiet mornings. She moves to the hearth, and with a small wooden stick she gently scrapes away the ash from the embers. The glowing heart of the fire is revealed, and she carefully places a few small dry twigs upon it. She kneels, her head bowed, and blows a long, slow, steady breath onto the embers. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a tiny bright orange flame flickers to life, then another. The twigs catch, crackling softly, and a warm golden light begins to push back the shadows. The day has truly begun. The scent of fresh wood smoke begins to fill the air, a clean and comforting perfume. The weaver's day, a day of quiet rhythm and patient creation, is about to unfold. The fire, now gently established, breathes a soft and steady life into the heart of the cottage. The flames dance with a quiet energy, their golden light flickering across the woman's face, illuminating her serene and focused expression as she adds larger pieces of wood to the growing warmth. The crackle of the burning wood is a comforting, rhythmic sound, a gentle percussion against the swelling orchestra of birdsong from the world outside. The light in the room grows stronger, turning from gold to a soft, buttery yellow, revealing the textures of the space in greater detail. The rough-hewn wood of the roof beams, the intricate patterns of the woven baskets stacked in a corner, the smooth, cool surface of the stones around the hearths. The man awakens next, not with a start, but with a slow, deep stretch, his limbs unfolding under the heavy wool blankets. He sits up, running a hand through his thick, tangled hair, and gives a quiet nod to his wife, a silent acknowledgment of the shared beginning of another day. The two children, a boy of about 7 and a girl a few years younger, remain asleep, lost in the deep and untroubled slumber of the young, their small faces peaceful and relaxed in the growing light. The woman moves to a large clay jug that rests on a low wooden bench. She lifts it, its weight familiar in her hands, and pours cool, clear water from it into the large iron pot. The water comes from the stream that runs just outside the cottage, a stream fed by springs deep within the earth, and its sound as it splashes into the pot is clean and refreshing. She swings a heavy iron arm over the fire and hangs the pot from its hook, positioning it so the flames lick at its blackened base. While the water begins its slow journey to warmth, she takes a small linen bag from a shelf. From it, she measures out a few handfuls of coarse ground oats, letting the grains cascade into the pot in a dusty, whispering stream. She adds a pinch of precious salt, carefully measured from a small covered stone jar, and then, with a long wooden spoon, she begins to stir. Her movements are slow, circular, and meditative. Round and round the spoon goes, a gentle vortex in the warming water. This is the pottage, the simple, sustaining meal that will fuel the day's work. It is not a meal of grand flavors, but of deep, earthy comfort. The scent that begins to rise from the pot is wholesome and nutty, the smell of the field and the harvest, a fragrance that speaks of nourishment and continuity. She continues to stir, her body swaying gently with the motion, her eyes soft and distant as she watches the steam begin to rise in delicate, curling tendrils. While she tends to the meal, the man pulls on a simple linen tunic and a pair of woolen trousers. He moves to the cottage door, lifts the heavy wooden bar that secures it, and pushes it open. A rectangle of cool, pale blue morning light floods into the room, bringing with it the fresh, clean scent of the dew-soaked earth and the full, glorious sound of the morning. For a moment he simply stands in the doorway, bathing in the new light, his silhouette framed against the awakening world. The mist is beginning to burn away, revealing a landscape washed in the soft, gentle colors of an English dawn. The rolling hills are a deep, verdant green, and the sky above is a canvas of pale rose, soft lavender, and shimmering gold. He steps outside, his bare feet sinking slightly into the soft, damp earth. The family's small garden is just beside the cottage, a neat patch of cultivated land where vegetables and herbs grow in tidy rows. He moves through the garden, his presence gentle, his eyes scanning the plants. He pulls a few young, tender onions from the soil, their roots trailing fine, dark threads of earth, and plucks a handful of fragrant green herbs, parsley and thyme, their leaves still beaded with tiny, perfect droplets of dew. He brings these back inside, and the woman chops them roughly with a small, sharp knife, adding their fresh, bright flavors to the slowly thickening pottage. Now the children begin to stir, woken not by a sound, but by the changing light and the delicious smell of their breakfast. They sit up, rubbing the sleep from their eyes, and their mother greets them with a soft smile. There are no loud words, no rushed commands. The morning unfolds with a quiet, unhurried grace, a series of familiar rituals performed with a sense of peace and purpose. When the pottage is ready, thick and warm and fragrant, the woman ladles it into 4 simple wooden bowls. The man takes a loaf of dark, heavy bread from a cloth-lined basket. It is a dense, rye bread with a thick, chewy crust. He breaks it into 4 rough hunks, the sound satisfying and wholesome. The family gathers on low stools around the hearth, the bowls cupped in their hands, the warmth seeping into their palms. They eat in comfortable silence, their senses filled with the simple goodness of the meal. The pottage is warm and savory, the bread is nutty and substantial, and they wash it down with sips of weak, slightly sweet ale from a shared wooden tankard, a drink that is safer than water and provides a gentle energy for the day ahead.
It is a meal of connection, connection to each other, to the fire that warms them, and to the land that provides for them. The firelight dances on their faces. The steam from their bowls rises to mingle with the wood smoke, and the sounds of their quiet eating are a part of the gentle symphony of the morning. As they finish, the sun has risen higher, its rays now streaming more directly through the open door, painting a bright, warm square of golden light upon the earthen floor. The day's first chapter, one of gentle awakening and simple nourishment, is complete. The long rhythmic work of the day, a day of weaving both thread and life, is now ready to begin. With the simple morning meal concluded, and the bowls wiped clean with the last crusts of bread, a quiet transition settles over the cottage. The air, which was filled with the scent of porridge and wood smoke, now seems to clear, ready for the day's true purpose. The man rises, giving his wife's shoulder a gentle squeeze before heading back out into the bright, clear morning. His work lies in the fields, a world of open sky and dark soil, a place of physical rhythm that complements the intricate, focused rhythm of the work that happens here, within these walls.
The woman, now alone with her children in the sunlit cottage, turns her attention to the magnificent object that dominates the room, the loom. It is a large, sturdy structure of oak, its wood darkened and polished by age and the constant touch of her hands. It stands nearly as tall as she is, a silent, waiting partner in her daily creation. To a stranger's eye, it might look like a complex and bewildering tangle of wood and string, but to her, it is as familiar and intimate as her own reflection. She understands its language, its tensions, its harmonies. The children, aware of the shift in the morning's energy, find their own quiet occupations. The boy takes a small, smoothly carved wooden horse and begins to trace patterns with it in the patch of sunlight on the floor, inventing his own silent stories. The girl, wanting to be close to her mother, curls up on a small pile of soft, clean wool fleece near the hearth, her fingers idly teasing out the fibers, her eyes watching her mother with a quiet, focused admiration. The woman's work begins not at the loom itself, but with the preparation of the thread. From a large woven basket, she pulls out a cloud of raw wool. It is soft and springy, still carrying the faint pastoral scent of the sheep and the fields where they grazed. She sits on her low stool, a simple wooden spindle and a distaff, a short staff that holds the unspun fibers, by her side. With practiced, graceful movements, she begins to spin. Her fingers are nimble and sure, teasing out a small, even stream of wool from the mass on the distaff. With her other hand, she sets the spindle turning, its weighted end a blur of motion near the floor.
The turning spindle twists the fibers, drawing them together, transforming the fluffy, fragile cloud of wool into a strong, continuous thread. It is a magical, alchemical process, a creation of order from chaos, of strength from softness. The sound of the spinning is a soft, hypnotic whirring, a sound that has filled human dwellings for thousands of years. It is a sound of patience, of transformation, of the slow and steady creation of something useful and beautiful from the simplest of materials. She spins for a long time, the thread growing longer and longer, coiling itself neatly around the shaft of the spindle. Her body is relaxed but focused, her mind in a state of meditative calm. Her gaze is soft, directed at the point where the fibers twist into thread, but her awareness extends to the entire room, to the warmth of the fire, the quiet play of her children, the changing quality of the light as the sun climbs higher in the sky. She is not just spinning wool, she is spinning the quiet moments of the morning into the fabric of her family's life. When she has filled several spindles with new, strong thread, she rises and moves to the loom. The great project stretched upon it is a length of woolen cloth, destined to become a new tunic for her husband. The colors are simple and beautiful, dyed with pigments gathered from the surrounding nature. The main body of the cloth is a deep, warm gray, the color of a stormy sky, achieved by dyeing the wool with the husks of walnuts. But running through it are stripes of a lovely, soft yellow, a color as bright and cheerful as a field of spring wildflowers, created by boiling the wool with weld, a common plant that grows along the edges of the fields. She takes her place on the bench before the loom. Her feet find the wooden treadles on the floor, and with a gentle press of her right foot, a space magically opens between the taut vertical threads of the warp. This space is called the shed, a temporary tunnel through the heart of the fabric. She takes up a wooden shuttle, a smooth, boat-shaped tool that holds a spindle of the gray thread. With a swift, practiced flick of her wrist, she sends the shuttle flying through the shed, from one side of the loom to the other. It makes a soft, satisfying clack as it arrives. The weft thread has now been laid. Then she reaches for the beater, a heavy comb-like frame hanging from the top of the loom, and pulls it towards her. With a solid, rhythmic thump, she beats the new thread tightly into place against the row that came before it, locking it into the structure of the growing cloth. This is the fundamental rhythm of weaving. Press, clack, thump. Press, clack, thump. The sound fills the small cottage, a steady, reassuring heartbeat. It is a dance of body and machine, a collaboration between human intention and mechanical ingenuity. Her feet press the treadles in a complex, alternating pattern. Her hands send the shuttle flying back and forth, and her arms pull the beater home. With each pass, the cloth grows, line by tiny line. It is a process that requires immense patience and unwavering focus, yet her movements are so fluid and ingrained that they seem effortless, as natural as breathing. She watches as the pattern emerges, the simple stripes of yellow appearing at regular intervals against the deep gray. It is a pattern
born of careful calculation, of counting the threads, of planning the sequence of colors. But it is also a pattern born of intuition, of a deep, unspoken understanding of beauty and balance. Hours pass in this rhythmic, meditative work. The sun moves across the sky, its light slanting through the doorway at a different angle now, the patch of gold on the floor stretching and shifting. The children's quiet play continues, their presence a soft counterpoint to the loom's steady beat. Occasionally, the girl will bring her mother a cup of water, or the boy will show her a particularly interesting stone he has found just outside the door. She pauses her work for these small moments, her focus shifting from the threads to her children, her smile warm and present, before returning to the gentle, demanding rhythm of the loom. The air in the cottage is now filled with a different kind of energy, an energy of quiet, focused creation. It is the energy of a skilled artisan, a woman whose hands are not just tools, but instruments of transformation. She is not merely making cloth. She is weaving warmth and protection and identity. She is weaving the very fabric of her family's world, one thread at a time, with a patience as deep and steady as the stream that flows past her door. The sound of her loom is the sound of a life being built, a sound of purpose and peace that echoes in the sun-drenched quiet of the medieval afternoon, as the sun reaches its zenith, casting a bright, impartial light directly down upon the thatched roof of the cottage. The steady, rhythmic heartbeat of the loom falls silent. The woman lets her hands rest in her lap, the smooth wood of the shuttle cool against her skin. She closes her eyes for a long moment, feeling the stillness, a quiet space between the beats of her work. The morning's labor has been productive. A satisfying new section of gray and yellow cloth now extends from the beater, a tangible record of the hours that have passed. She rises from the bench, her body moving with a slow, deliberate grace, and stretches her arms towards the high rafters, easing the pleasant ache of focused stillness from her shoulders. Her children, sensing the change in rhythm, look up from their play. It is time for the midday meal, a simple pause to mark the turning point of the day. She moves back to the hearth, where the fire has burned down to a bed of glowing orange embers that radiate a gentle, consistent warmth. The iron pot of pottage, kept warm at the edge of the hearth, is still half full, its contents having grown thicker and more flavorful over the morning. The scent of it, rich and oaten, once again fills the small room. She adds a little more water from the clay jug, stirring it in to bring the stew back to life. While it warms, she steps outside into the full light of noon. The world is alive with the gentle hum of midday. The air is warm and smells of sun-baked earth and the sweet fragrance of clover from the nearby meadow. Bees drone lazily among the wildflowers that grow in a cheerful tangle along the banks of the stream. The sound of the water itself is a bright, sparkling music, a constant, soothing murmur. She walks to the small garden patch, her shadow short beneath her, and gathers a few large, dark green cabbage leaves. She also pulls a few small, sweet carrots from the earth, their vibrant orange a surprising splash of color against the dark soil. Back inside, she washes the vegetables in a wooden bucket of clean water, and then, with her small knife, she slices them and adds them to the pot, giving the meal a fresh, crisp note. We float after the meal, as the children grow sleepy in the warmth of the afternoon. She leads them to the straw bed. They curl up together under a single woolen blanket, and within moments they are breathing the slow, deep rhythm of an afternoon nap. For a little while the cottage is filled with an even deeper quiet, a stillness broken only by the soft crackle of the embers and the gentle breathing of the sleeping children. This quiet hour is a gift, a space for a different kind of work. The woman does not return to the loom. Instead, she takes a small, beautifully carved wooden box from a high shelf. Inside, nestled on a bed of dried moss, are her most precious tools: a set of fine, sharp needles made of polished bone, and a collection of threads in a rainbow of beautiful colors, wound neatly around flat pieces of birch bark. These threads are her special treasure. They have been dyed with great care and skill, using rare and valuable materials. There is a deep, vibrant red, the color of a summer poppy, made from the roots of the madder plant. There is a brilliant, sunny yellow, far brighter than the yellow in her husband's tunic, dyed with saffron, a spice brought from faraway lands and purchased with the small coins she earned from selling a particularly fine piece of linen. And most precious of all, there is a spool of thread the color of a twilight sky, a deep and luminous blue, dyed with woad, a plant that requires a long and complex process to yield its magical color. She is an embroiderer, and her skill is well known in the villages for miles around. While her loom provides the sturdy, practical fabric for her family's needs, her needle allows her to create art, to paint with thread, to capture the beauty of the world in 1,000 tiny stitches. She is working on a special commission, a decorative border for the sleeve of a gown for the lady of the nearby manor. The fabric is a fine, soft linen, as white as fresh snow. Upon it she is creating a winding, intricate pattern of ivy leaves and small, bright red berries. She sits in the doorway of the cottage, positioning her stool so the full afternoon light falls upon her work. Her needle, held in her nimble fingers, flashes in the sun as it dips in and out of the fabric. Her stitches are tiny and perfectly even, each one a miniature brush stroke. She works with a focused, joyful intensity. The green thread, dyed with nettles, becomes a lifelike vine that seems to grow and twist across the white linen. The deep red berries, each one a tiny raised knot of thread, look so real you could almost pluck them. This work is slow and painstaking, a meditation in color and form. Her mind is quiet, her awareness fully absorbed in the gentle pull of the thread, the soft puncture of the needle, the gradual emergence of the beautiful pattern. She is not thinking of the past or the future. She is simply here, in this moment, creating beauty. The world outside the cottage door continues its gentle hum. A cart rumbles by on the distant track leading to the village, the sound of its wooden wheels a slow, gentle rhythm. A flock of geese flies overhead, their calls echoing in the wide blue sky. She is aware of these things, but they are just a soft, ambient backdrop to her focused, peaceful work. Time seems to dissolve. There are only the colors, the threads, and the feeling of creation. The ivy vine grows longer, its leaves curling in delicate, natural shapes. She adds a tiny hidden detail, a small embroidered ladybug, its red back dotted with black, crawling along one of the leaves, a secret touch of whimsy that only a close observer would notice. A quiet smile plays on her lips as she works. This is her joy, her art, her silent language. In a world of hard work and simple materials, this is her way of adding a touch of magic, of celebrating the intricate, delicate beauty of the natural world she loves. The afternoon light begins to soften, turning from bright white to a warm, honeyed gold, and still she works, her needle dancing, her threads telling a silent, beautiful story. The golden afternoon light deepens, its color growing richer and warmer, bathing the inside of the cottage in a soft amber glow. The shadows, which at noon were small and sharp, now stretch out long and elegant, like graceful fingers reaching across the earthen floor. The air begins to cool, losing the heat of midday and taking on the first subtle hint of evening's approach. The vibrant hum of the afternoon softens into a more gentle, mellow drone. The children begin to wake from their nap, not all at once, but in a slow, drowsy sequence. The little girl stirs first, her small sigh a gentle puff of sound in the quiet room. She sits up, her hair tousled, her eyes still soft with sleep. A few moments later, her brother rolls over, blinking in the warm, slanting light. The woman puts aside her embroidery, carefully placing the linen and her precious needles back into their wooden box. The time for fine, detailed work has passed with the bright light of midday. The evening brings with it a different set of rhythms, a gentle winding down of the day's labor. She rises and goes to the open door, looking out towards the west. The sun is a great fiery orb, beginning its slow descent towards the horizon. In the distance, she can see the figure of her husband, walking steadily along the path that leads from the fields back to the village. He is not alone. Other men and women from the village walk with him, their figures dark silhouettes against the brilliant, painted sky. Their workday is done. The sound of their voices carries on the still air, a low and pleasant murmur of conversation, punctuated by occasional laughter. The woman turns back into the cottage and begins the simple, comforting rituals of preparing for the evening. She coaxes the fire back to life, adding fresh wood until a cheerful, crackling blaze dances in the hearth, its light a welcome beacon against the approaching twilight. The children, now fully awake, help her. The boy goes to the woodpile just outside the door and brings in an armful of logs, stacking them neatly by the fire. The girl takes a small, soft cloth and carefully wipes down the wooden bowls and spoons from the midday meal, her small hands mimicking her mother's efficient movements. The man arrives at the cottage, his face tired but content, his shoulders carrying the pleasant weight of a day's hard work well done. He brings with it the smells of the outdoors, of rich soil, of cut grass, and of the clean, cool evening air. He smiles as he enters the warm, fire-lit space, his presence filling the small home. He sets down his tools, a heavy hoe and a sharp sickle, their wooden handles worn smooth with use, and washes his hands and face in the bucket of cool water, the splashing sound a refreshing counterpoint to the crackle of the fire. The evening meal is much like the one at noon, the last of the thick, savory pottage, another hunk of the dark, satisfying bread. But this meal feels different. It is slower, more relaxed. The day's work is behind them, and the long, quiet evening stretches before them. As they eat, the man tells his family about his day in the fields. He speaks of the richness of the soil in the newly plowed section, of the hawk he saw circling high overhead, its wings a masterpiece of effortless grace. He talks about the progress of the crops, the gentle but steady way the new shoots are pushing their way up towards the sun. His voice is low and steady, a calming and reassuring presence in the warm, enclosed space. After the meal, as the last vestiges of daylight fade from the sky, and the world outside is cloaked in a deep sapphire twilight, the family does not immediately prepare for sleep. This time of day, between the work and the rest, is a time for connection, for quiet companionship.
The man takes a small, sharp knife and a piece of soft pine wood from a basket by the hearth. He begins to carve, his large, strong hands surprisingly delicate and precise. He is not making a tool or an object of practical use. He is carving a small, simple bird, its wings outstretched as if in flight. The knife makes a soft, scraping sound as it peels away fine, curling shavings of wood which fall like pale snowflakes onto the floor. The scent of fresh-cut pine fills the air, a clean, resinous perfume. The children watch, mesmerized, as the shape of the bird slowly emerges from the block of wood, a small, magical transformation happening right before their eyes. While her husband carves, the woman takes up a different kind of work. She has a small basket filled with torn and worn pieces of clothing, a rip in the boy's tunic, a thin patch on the man's trousers. With a needle and a sturdy linen thread, she begins to mend. Her stitches are neat and strong, a quiet act of care and preservation. Her work is not as artistic as her embroidery, but it is just as important, an act of weaving the family's world back together, of making things whole again. The firelight glints on her needle as it moves in and out of the rough cloth, her movements calm and rhythmic. The cottage is a small haven of warmth and light in the growing darkness. The fire crackles and spits, casting a warm, dancing light that makes the shadows leap and sway. The only sounds are the gentle scrape of the carving knife, the soft pull of the mending thread, and the low, contented murmur of the family's voices. Sometimes the man will whistle a soft, simple tune as he carves, a melody as old as the hills around them. Sometimes the woman will tell the children a story, not a grand adventure, but a simple folk tale about a clever fox or a foolish troll, her voice low and soothing. This is a time of quiet contentment,
a time when the bonds of family are strengthened not by grand gestures, but by these small shared moments of simple, peaceful activity. The world outside may be vast and unknown, but within the warm, fire-lit circle of the cottage there is a sense of safety, of belonging, of a deep and abiding peace. The day has been long and full of labor, but it ends here, in this gentle, shared stillness, a perfect quiet harmony of purpose and love. The stars begin to appear in the dark sky outside, and the world settles into the deep, restorative silence of the night. As the evening deepens, a profound stillness settles over the small hamlet and the rolling landscape that cradles it. The sky, now completely free of the sun's lingering glow, has transformed into a vast, dark ocean of deepest indigo, so clear and clean that the stars seem to burn with a fierce, cold fire. The Milky Way is a breathtaking, luminous river of light, a celestial path strewn with diamond dust, stretching from one horizon to the other. There is no other light to compete with this cosmic spectacle, no haze to dim its brilliance. It is a sky that feels both immense and intimately close, a glittering canopy for the sleeping world. Inside the weaver's cottage, the fire in the hearth has been allowed to burn down once more. The bright, dancing flames have given way to a deep, radiant bed of embers that pulse with a soft, gentle orange-red light. This warm, dim glow is just enough to fill the room with a soft, peaceful luminescence, casting gentle, indistinct shadows that no longer dance but rest. The air in the cottage is warm and still, heavy with the scent of wood smoke and the faint, clean fragrance of the carved pine. The time for sleep has come. The simple activities of the evening have wound down, their gentle rhythms ceasing one by one. The newly carved bird, its wooden form now smooth and complete, rests on the mantelpiece above the hearth. The mended clothes are folded neatly in their basket, whole once more. The stories have been told, the quiet songs have been whistled. A comfortable, sleepy silence has fallen over the family. The children, their eyelids heavy, are the first to succumb to the pull of rest. Their mother leads them to the straw bed, tucking the heavy wool blankets snugly around their small bodies. She murmurs a soft, quiet blessing over them, her hand resting gently on their foreheads for a moment, a gesture of love and protection. Their breathing soon deepens into the slow, even cadence of profound sleep, their small sighs blending with the soft whisper of the embers. The woman and the man prepare for rest themselves. Their movements are slow and quiet, careful not to disturb the deep peace that has settled in the room. They add a layer of ash over the embers, preserving their precious warmth for the morning to come. The pulsating red glow of the fire softens even further, becoming a faint, mysterious presence in the near darkness. The man secures the door, dropping the heavy wooden bar into place, its solid thud, a final reassuring sound that seals their small, warm world off from the vast, cool night outside. They slip under the blankets, the familiar weight and texture a comforting presence. The straw mattress rustles softly beneath them, releasing a faint, sweet, hay-like scent. They lie close together,
sharing their warmth, their bodies fitting into the familiar contours of the bed. For a long time they lie in silence, simply listening. The night is not truly silent, but filled with its own soft, subtle music. There's the gentle, ceaseless murmur of the stream just outside the cottage walls, a sound that is so constant it has become a part of the silence itself. From the deep woods on the hill, the low, resonant hoot of an owl drifts on the still air, a lonely but peaceful call. A soft breeze sighs through the thatch of the roof, a sound like a long, slow exhalation, as if the house itself is breathing. The world feels safe and small and deeply peaceful. All the cares of the day, the labor of the fields, and the focus of the loom have dissolved into this simple, profound state of rest. There is only the warmth of the blankets, the soft sounds of the night, and the steady, reassuring presence of another's breathing in the darkness. This is the deep, restorative peace that lies at the heart of the day's rhythm, the reward for the work, the foundation for the morning to come. It is a peace born of simplicity, of a life lived in close harmony with the turning of the seasons and the rising and setting of the sun. It is a peace that seeps into the bones, that calms the mind, that allows the spirit to be still. As you lie here, floating in the warm, safe darkness of the weaver's cottage, feel this peace settling over you as well. Let the gentle rhythms of this long-ago day become your own. Feel the steady beat of the loom, the soft scrape of the carving knife, the quiet murmur of the stream. Let these simple, soothing sounds guide you deeper and deeper into a state of complete and total relaxation. Allow your thoughts to drift away like smoke rising from the chimney, dissolving into the vast starry night sky. Let go of all the complexities of your own day and embrace the profound simplicity of this moment. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. You are safe, you are warm, and you are at peace. The soft, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping family surrounds you, a gentle lullaby. The embers in the hearth glow with a deep, sleepy warmth. The ancient, silent stars watch over the small cottage. The world is turning slowly, peacefully, carrying you gently towards the new day. Allow yourself to drift on this quiet, peaceful current, drifting, floating, down into a deep and restful sleep. The world breathes in this cool, clean light. The night is a time of quiet transformation. Dew forms, bead by perfect bead, on every blade of grass, on every leaf, on every silken thread of a spider's web, creating a million tiny luminous jewels that will catch the first light of dawn. The soil, still warm from the previous day's sun, slowly releases its heat into the cool air, a faint and invisible exhalation. In the deep woods, the nocturnal creatures move with a silent, secret purpose. A fox, its coat the color of fire, steps delicately through the undergrowth. A badger snuffles at the roots of an ancient oak. An owl, perched on a high branch, turns its head in a slow, soundless arc, its great dark eyes seeing all. Inside the cottage, the rhythm of sleep is a deep and steady current, a shared tide of gentle breathing that rises and falls in perfect
peaceful unison. This is a place of profound security, a tiny man-made womb of warmth and safety, nestled in the vast wild darkness. The banked embers of the fire continue their slow, patient pulse. A single warm red eye in the center of the home, a guardian against the cold and the dark. And now, as we float in this timeless, peaceful space, let us allow our sense of time to soften, to dissolve. Let us imagine time itself as a river, the very river that flows past this cottage door, and let us drift along its current. The moments, the hours, the days, the weeks, they flow by one into the next as seamlessly as drops of water. The moon waxes and wanes, a silver pendulum marking the passage of the weeks. The brilliant starry canopy of late summer gives way to the crisper, clearer skies of autumn. The world outside the cottage begins a slow, graceful transformation. The deep, uniform green of the landscape begins to be touched by other colors. The leaves of the great oak tree on the hill turn a rich, burnished gold. The ferns in the woods become a fiery, russet red. The fields, once green with growing things, are now a pale, straw-colored stubble, the harvest having been brought in and stored safely for the coming winter. The air grows sharper, cooler, carrying the rich, loamy scent of decaying leaves and the promise of rain. The bird song of the morning changes its tune. The cheerful chorus of summer is replaced by the more melancholy, contemplative calls of the birds that will remain for the winter. The rhythms of life within the cottage shift in harmony with the changing season. The loom is busy with the weaving of thicker, heavier wools. The woman's embroidery now features the colors of autumn, deep reds, warm golds, and rich browns. The evening meals are heartier, filled with root vegetables, turnips, parsnips, and carrots, dug from the garden and stored in the cool darkness of a small cellar beneath the floor. The sound of the man's axe is often heard from the woodshed, a sharp, rhythmic thwack as he splits logs for the fire, building up a formidable woodpile that stands as a fortress against the coming cold. And still, the river of time flows on. The last of the golden leaves fall from the trees, leaving behind a stark and beautiful filigree of bare branches against a sky that is now often a soft, uniform gray. The rains come, long, steady, soaking rains that turn the paths to mud and make the stream run high and fast. The world seems to turn inward, to gather its energies, to prepare for a long period of rest. The nights grow longer, the days shorter. The sun, when it appears, is a pale, distant disk in the sky. Its light, thin and white. Its warmth a gentle memory rather than a present reality. The first frosts arrive, painting the world in a delicate crystalline white. Every surface, every blade of dead grass, every stone in the wall, every strand of thatch on the roof is outlined in a breathtakingly intricate layer of tiny, frozen crystals that sparkle and glitter in the low morning light. And then, one night, a new and deeper silence begins to fall. It comes in the deepest, darkest hours, when the family is sound asleep, cocooned in their warm beds. It comes not as a sound, but as a lack of it. It begins with a single, unique, six-sided crystal of ice
forming high in the cold, dark clouds. It is joined by another, and then millions upon millions more. They begin their long, slow, silent descent to the earth. They fall not as rain, but as snow. Softly, gently, the flakes drift down, a silent white curtain being drawn across the dark world. They land on the thatched roof of the cottage, on the bare branches of the oak tree, on the fallow fields, on the frozen surface of the path. They land without a sound, and they stay, accumulating, flake upon silent flake. The world is being transformed, erased, simplified. All the complex textures and colors of the land are slowly, gently being buried under a soft, pure, uniform blanket of white. The soundscape changes. The constant murmur of the stream is muffled, softened. The distant cry of a hunting owl sounds closer, clearer in the strangely insulated air. The snow falls all through the night, a relentless but gentle process. By the time the first faint, pearlescent light of the winter dawn begins to filter through the heavy gray clouds, the world is a place reborn. It is a world of profound silence, a world of soft, curving shapes, a world of infinite subtle shades of white and gray and blue. The weaver's cottage, like all the others in the hamlet, is now nestled deep in the snow, its thatched roof a thick, white, rounded cap, with a single delicate plume of gray smoke rising from its chimney into the still cold air. The heart of winter has arrived. Inside the cottage, the morning awakens not to the cheerful, bright light of summer, but to a soft, diffused, and mysterious glow. The light that finds its way through the small, shuttered openings is no longer golden, but a cool, serene, blue-white luminescence, a light that has been filtered through a heavy sky and then reflected back from the brilliant, untouched snow that covers the entire world. It is a quiet, contemplative light, a light that encourages stillness and introspection. The air in the single room is cold, carrying a sharp, clean chill that makes the warmth of the blankets feel like the most precious luxury on earth. On the inside of the wooden shutters, intricate, feather-like patterns of frost have formed during the night, a delicate, icy embroidery that glitters faintly in the strange reflected light. The family sleeps on, huddled deeper into their nest of straw and wool, their bodies instinctively seeking to conserve every last bit of precious warmth. The breaths of the sleepers are visible in the cold air, small, fleeting clouds of white that appear and disappear with the slow, steady rhythm of their slumber. It is the cold that finally rouses the woman. She awakens slowly, becoming aware of the crisp chill on her nose and cheeks. She opens her eyes to the dim blue-white world, and she knows, even before she looks, that the snow has come. There is a unique and profound silence to a snow-covered world, a stillness that seems to absorb all sound, and she can feel it now, a great, soft blanket of quiet laid over the land. She slips from the bed, her movements swift and purposeful, a gasp of cold air catching in her throat as her feet touch the icy, packed earth of the floor. She is already wearing several layers of linen and wool, and she quickly pulls a thick, fur-lined cloak around her shoulders. Her first and most urgent task is the fire. The bed of embers from the night before is barely alive, a faint, deep red glow in a sea of gray ash.
The cottage's very survival through the long, cold day depends on her ability to coax it back to life. She kneels, her fingers numb with cold, and carefully arranges a small, dry nest of shaved birch bark and tiny, tinder-dry twigs over the embers. She leans in close, her face near the cold stones of the hearth, and blows with a long, steady, focused breath. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happens. Then a tiny wisp of smoke, a flicker of renewed hope. She blows again, more strongly this time, and a small, determined flame springs to life, its color a brilliant, vibrant orange against the cool, blue-whiteness of the room. It catches the birch bark, which flares up with a cheerful, papery rustle, and then the twigs begin to crackle. A wave of warmth, faint but real, washes over her face. She adds larger sticks, then small logs from the precious, neatly stacked woodpile beside the hearth, her movements economical and precise. The fire grows, a living, breathing creature of light and warmth, pushing back the cold, making the frost on the shutters weep, and painting the walls with a flickering, joyful golden light. The cottage, which a moment before felt like a cold and dormant cave, begins to feel like a home again. The man and children awaken to this growing warmth, their faces turning towards the life-giving fire like flowers turning to the sun. The morning rituals now are different, dictated by the season. There is no trip to the stream for water. Its banks will be treacherous, and its surface may be frozen. Instead, the man unbars the heavy door, pushing against the drift of snow that has accumulated outside. A cascade of soft, powdery snow falls inward as the door opens, and a blast of clean, invigoratingly cold air sweeps through the cottage. She is already wearing several layers of linen and wool, and she quickly pulls a thick, fur-lined cloak around her shoulders. The world revealed in the doorway is breathtakingly beautiful. Everything is soft, white, and silent. The familiar shapes of the garden, the path, the neighboring cottages are all softened and simplified, their edges rounded, their details erased. The bare, skeletal branches of the trees are now things of immense beauty, each one delicately outlined in a thick layer of pristine snow. The sky is a uniform pearly gray, and the air is so still that the smoke from their chimney rises in a perfectly straight, vertical line. The man takes the large iron pot and, using a wooden shovel, fills it with clean, white snow from the deep drift just outside the door. He brings it inside and hangs it over the fire, and the family watches as the snow begins to melt, slowly transforming from a solid, opaque white to a clear, shimmering liquid. This will be their water for the day. The woman prepares the winter pottage. It is heartier than the summer version, made with dried peas and beans that have been stored since the autumn harvest, along with slices of salted pork and the last of the hardy root vegetables from the cellar, turnips and parsnips whose sweetness has been concentrated by the winter frosts. The smell that fills the cottage is rich and deeply savory, a promise of warmth and strength to face the long, cold day. The family eats huddled close to the fire, their backs to the chill of the room, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames. They hold their warm bowls in their hands, letting the heat seep into their fingers. They speak in low voices, their words seeming softer, more intimate in the insulated quiet of the snowbound world. The boy and girl stare out the open doorway, their eyes wide with wonder at the magical transformation of their world. For them, the first deep snow of winter is not a hardship, but a beautiful, exciting mystery. The world after the meal, the door is closed and barred again, shutting out the cold and sealing in the precious, fire-born warmth. The day's work will be done entirely within these four walls. The fields are sleeping under their white blanket, and so the farmer becomes a craftsman. The world has shrunk to the size of this single, warm, fire-lit room, and within it the slow, patient, and peaceful rhythms of a winter's day are about to begin. With the world outside transformed into a silent white expanse, the life of the cottage turns inward, becoming a self-contained universe of warmth, craft, and quiet industry. The fire in the hearth is the sun at the center of this universe, a constant source of light and life around which all activity revolves. The man, unable to work the frozen, snow-covered fields, brings his labor indoors. His hands, which in summer guided the plow and swung the scythe, now turn to other, more intricate tasks. He takes a seat on a low stool near the fire, the floor around him soon to be littered with the evidence of his patient work. Today he is a mender of tools. He takes up the wooden handle of his hoe, which had splintered slightly during the hard work of the autumn harvest. With a small, sharp knife, he carefully shaves away the splintered section, his movements slow and precise. Then he takes a piece of fine, supple leather and a thick waxed linen thread, and with an awl and a needle he begins to bind the weakened section of the handle. His stitches are strong and even, a practical and unadorned kind of sewing, designed not for beauty, but for strength and longevity. The sound of the awl piercing the wood and the pull of the thread are quiet, rhythmic sounds that join the gentle crackle of the fire. He is not just fixing a tool, he is preserving a part of himself, pouring his care and attention into the objects that help him sustain his family. Once the hoe is repaired, its handle now stronger than before, he sets it aside and begins a new task. He has a small store of hemp fibers, long and tough, that he harvested in the late summer. Now, in the enforced stillness of winter, he begins to twist them into rope. He takes a handful of the fibers, anchors one end to a hook on the wall, and begins to walk backwards, his hands expertly twisting the fibers together, creating a long, sturdy cord. He then folds the cord in half and twists it back on itself, the two strands wrapping around each other to form a thick, durable rope. It is a slow, repetitive, almost meditative process. His body moves in a steady, swaying rhythm, his hands constantly in motion. The rope he is making will have 100 uses: for tethering animals, for bundling firewood, for mending fences when the spring comes. It is a slow, quiet act of preparing for the future, of creating order and strength in the heart of winter's dormancy. While her husband is absorbed in his crafts, the woman returns to her loom. The great wooden frame seems to dominate the small cottage even more in the winter, a constant, reassuring presence. The project stretched upon its warp is different now. She is weaving a heavy, thick woolen cloth, a fabric known as frieze. The wool is dense and naturally oily, which will make the finished cloth nearly waterproof and incredibly warm. The color is the deep, honest brown of the undyed fleece of a brown sheep. It is a practical, humble fabric, destined to become a winter cloak that will shield its wearer from the harshest winds and deepest chills. She takes her place on the weaving bench, her feet finding the familiar treadles. The rhythm of her work begins, filling the cottage with its steady, comforting beat. Press, clack, thump. Press, clack, thump. The sound of the loom in winter is different. It seems louder, more resonant in the muffled silence of the snowbound world. It is the sound of life, of purpose, of defiance against the cold and the darkness. It is the sound of warmth being created, line by painstaking line. The shuttle, holding the thick brown thread, flies back and forth, a tireless messenger, weaving a web of protection. The beater thumps home with a solid, satisfying finality, locking each thread into its place. Her movements are a symphony of efficiency, her body a part of the machine. Her concentration is deep and unwavering. She is not just weaving cloth, she is weaving a shield. She thinks of the finished cloak, of how it will feel wrapped around her husband or one of her children, a portable haven of warmth in the frozen world. This thought, this intention, is woven into the very fabric of the cloth, along with the threads of wool. The children, unable to play outside in the deep snow, create their own small world of imagination within the cottage. They have a collection of simple treasures, smooth gray stones from the stream, a handful of polished acorns, and a few brightly colored bird feathers. With these, they create miniature landscapes and silent dramas on the floor near the hearth. The stones become a castle, the acorns become the people who live within it, and the feathers become the banners that fly from its ramparts. Later, the girl brings a small stool and sits beside her mother at the loom, watching the shuttle fly back and forth, her eyes wide with fascination. The woman, without pausing her rhythm, begins to explain the process in a low, gentle voice. She points out the warp and the weft, explains how the treadles change the pattern of the threads, how the beater locks them together. It is a lesson passed down not in a school, but here, in the heart of the home, a legacy of skill and knowledge, transferred from one generation to the next. The boy, meanwhile, sits with his father. The man gives him a small, soft piece of wood and a blunted knife, and shows him how to make his first simple carving strokes, how to feel the grain of the wood, how to respect the sharpness of the tool. The boy's tongue is stuck out in concentration as he tries to mimic his father's movements, his small hands clumsy but determined. The hours of the short winter day pass in this way, in a shared atmosphere of quiet, focused activity. The cottage is a hive of gentle industry, each member of the family engaged in their own rhythmic, creative task. The air is filled with a rich tapestry of sounds, the beat of the loom, the scrape of the knife, the twist of the rope, the soft murmur of voices, and the constant, cheerful crackle of the fire. It is a portrait of deep, peaceful harmony, a family bound together not only by love, but by the shared, creative work of their hands. The world outside may be cold, stark, and still, but within the walls of the small cottage, life is warm, rich, and full of gentle, purposeful motion. As the pale, white light of the winter afternoon begins to fade, the gray sky outside the cottage deepens to the color of slate. The world seems to hold its breath in the quiet moments of twilight. There is no dramatic sunset, only a slow, gentle dimming, a gradual surrender of the world to the long, dark night. The silence outside becomes even more profound, the snow-covered landscape absorbing the last of the day's light and sound. Inside, the fire, which has been the heart of the day's activity, now becomes the very center of the family's existence. The man rises from his work and builds the fire high, adding thick,
seasoned oak logs that will burn slowly and radiate a deep, penetrating heat. The flames leap up the chimney, a roaring, cheerful beacon of defiance against the winter night. The cottage is filled with a bright, dancing, golden light, a warm and living light that makes the small space feel like the safest, coziest haven in the entire world. The day's work is put away. The mended tools are leaned carefully against the wall. The newly made rope is coiled neatly. The loom is left silent, its half-finished cloth a dark, sleeping shape in the corner. The children's toys are gathered into a basket. The focus of the family narrows now to this small, intimate circle of warmth and light around the hearth.
The evening meal is simple but deeply comforting. The last of the hearty pottage is eaten, its rich, savory warmth spreading through their bodies. They eat slowly, savoring each spoonful, their faces glowing in the firelight. After the meal, the man takes a small sputtering tallow candle and lights it from a burning twig. He places it on the low wooden mantelpiece, its small steady flame adding another layer of soft light to the room. This is the time for stories. In a world without books for most, the long winter nights were the domain of memory and imagination, a time when the stories that bound a community together were shared and passed down. The woman is the storyteller of this family. Her voice is soft and melodic, and as she begins to speak, the children draw closer, their eyes wide and fixed on her face, their imaginations ready to take flight. She does not tell a story of great battles or heroic kings. She tells a simple, ancient tale that her own mother told to her, a story of the forest and its secret life. Long ago, she begins, her voice a low, enchanting murmur. In the heart of the oldest woods there lived a great white stag. He was not like the other deer. His coat was the color of fresh snow. His eyes were as green as moss in the springtime, and his antlers were like the branches of a silver birch tree reaching for the moon. He was the king of the forest, and all the creatures lived in peace under his gentle rule. Her voice paints a picture in the minds of her listeners. They can see the silent, snow-dusted trees of the ancient forest. They can feel the deep, watchful peace of the place. One year, she continues, a winter came that was colder and longer than any that had come before. The snow lay deep upon the ground for many months, and the animals of the forest grew hungry and weak. The squirrels had eaten all their stored nuts, the rabbits could find no green shoots beneath the snow, and the birds shivered in the bare branches, their songs silenced by the cold. The children lean in, their faces serious. They can feel the cold and the hunger of the story's creatures, even here in the warmth of their cottage. The animals came to the white stag and begged for his help. He listened to their troubles, his green eyes full of a deep and ancient sadness. He knew he could not make the sun shine or the snow melt, but he knew he must do something. So he led them on a long journey, deeper and deeper into the heart of the woods, to a place that no one had ever seen before. It was a hidden valley, a bowl in the earth,
where a warm spring bubbled up from the ground, melting the snow in a large green circle. In this circle the grass was still green, and red berries grew on the holly bushes, and a sweet, tender moss covered the rocks. A collective sigh of relief seems to pass through the small audience. The woman's voice is full of a gentle wonder as she describes the secret, magical place.
There is nothing more for you to do now but to surrender to the deep, restorative pull of sleep. Let the rhythm of the winter wind be your lullaby. Let the warmth of the fire's embers soothe your soul. Allow yourself to drift away, down into the silent, peaceful valley of your own deepest dreams, drifting, resting in the heart of the long winter's night, sleeping deeply and peacefully. We rest in the deep, secure stillness of the winter's night, a silent observer in a world cocooned by snow and darkness. The wind continues its lonely, ancient song outside the cottage walls, a sound that speaks of vast, open spaces and the raw, untamed power of the natural world. Yet within this small, humble dwelling, there is only a profound sense of peace. The family sleeps, lost in the deep, restorative ocean of slumber, their breathing a soft, steady, and reassuring tide in the quiet room. The embers of the fire pulse with a faint, sleepy crimson light, a warm and living heart at the center of the home. And so the night passes, as all nights must, and it is followed by another day and another night. The river of time, which in summer seemed to flow with a bright and cheerful energy, now moves with a slow, deep, and almost imperceptible current. The heart of winter is a time of deep stillness, a long, quiet pause in the life of the earth. Many days are like the one we have witnessed, spent indoors in a circle of firelight and quiet craft. The snow on the ground thaws and refreezes, its surface becoming a hard, glittering crust. The sky is often a heavy, seamless lid of gray, and the world seems to be holding its breath, waiting. But even in the deepest, coldest moments of this long, frozen sleep, a subtle, secret change is taking place. Deep beneath the frozen soil, in the roots of the great oak, the sap is beginning to stir, a slow, sweet, and invisible rising. The days, though still cold, begin to lengthen, minute by imperceptible minute. The sun, when it appears, climbs a little higher in the southern sky, its light gaining a faint, new hint of strength, a promise of a warmth that is yet to come. The earth is beginning to dream of spring. The long, deep nights of winter continue to pass, one after another, a string of dark, polished beads. But the wind's song begins to change. The fierce, elemental howl of the midwinter gales softens, at times, to a more gentle, sighing murmur. There are days when the air loses its biting, crystalline edge and feels merely cold, a subtle but significant shift. And then one afternoon a new sound is heard, a sound that has not been heard for many long months. It is the soft, gentle, persistent sound of dripping water. The sun has found a brief opening in the clouds, and its pale white gold rays are falling upon the southern-facing slope of the cottage roof. The thick blanket of snow and ice, which has been the cottage's winter cap for so long, begins to release its grip. Drop by slow, deliberate drop, water begins to fall from the edge of the thatch, landing on the snow below with a soft, hollow blink.
It is the first note in the great, slow symphony of the thaw.
That night, the wind brings not a deeper cold, but a soft, damp air from the distant sea. All through the night, the gentle dripping continues, its rhythm growing faster, more insistent. It is a sound of release, of letting go, of the breaking of winter's long and silent spell. When the family awakens the next morning, the world is once again transformed. The light that filters into the cottage is different. It is a bright, watery, and incredibly clear light, a light that seems to wash the very air clean. The profound, muffled silence of the snow is gone. In its place is a world filled with the sound of moving water. The dripping from the roof is now a steady, musical patter, and from outside, the voice of the stream, which has been a soft, muffled murmur for so long, can now be heard clearly once again. It is not the gentle gurgle of summer, but a loud, joyful, and energetic rush, its waters swollen with meltwater, its song a triumphant announcement of winter's retreat. The man unbars the door, and the world that is revealed is one of beautiful, messy, and hopeful transition. The pristine, uniform white of the winter landscape is broken. Great patches of dark, wet, fragrant earth are visible now, emerging from beneath the shrinking and pockmarked remnants of the snow. The snow itself is no longer a pure powdery white, but a soft, gray and heavy mass, its edges ragged, its surface glittering with the moisture of its own dissolution. The air that flows into the cottage is cool and incredibly fresh, carrying the unmistakable, life-affirming scent of damp soil, of wet bark, of the earth itself awakening from its long slumber. The family stands in the doorway for a long moment, breathing in this new air, listening to this new music. A sense of lightness, of release, of quiet, joyful anticipation seems to fill them. The long, inward-turning season of winter is ending. The great outward-turning cycle of growth and renewal is about to begin. The spring has come. The arrival of the thaw brings with it a profound shift in the energy of the cottage and the world around it. The feeling of being sealed in, of living a life confined to the warm circle of the hearth, dissolves like the snow itself. The cottage door is now often left open for long stretches of the day, letting in the fresh, damp, and invigorating air, along with a brighter, more hopeful light. The man's work moves outdoors once more. He is filled with a restless, purposeful energy, a farmer's deep and instinctive need to reconnect with his land. The fields are not yet ready for the plow. The ground is too soft, too saturated with meltwater, but there is much to be done. He walks the boundaries of his small plot of land, his boots sinking into the soft, muddy earth. He inspects the simple wattle fences that separate his fields from his neighbors, mending the sections that were damaged by the weight of the winter snows. He uses the sturdy rope he twisted during the long winter nights, his hands moving with practiced skill to lash the branches together, making the fences strong and whole again. He clears the fields of the stones that the winter frosts have pushed up to the surface. He walks slowly, his back bent, his eyes scanning the dark, wet soil. When he finds a stone, he pries it from the earth and carries it to the edge of the field, adding it to the low, moss-covered stone wall that has been built, stone by patient stone, by generations of his ancestors. It is slow, heavy, repetitive work, but he does it with a deep sense of satisfaction.
He is clearing the way, preparing the ground for the new life that is to come. He is a partner with the land, and this is his part of the ancient annual conversation. Inside the cottage, the woman's work at the loom reflects the changing season. She has finished the heavy brown woolen cloak, and it now hangs on a peg on the wall, a comforting and reassuring presence, ready for any lingering winter chills. But the threads on her loom now are different. She is weaving with linen, a fiber made from the flax plant. The thread is finer, smoother, and cooler to the touch than wool. The cloth she is creating is light and airy, destined to become summer tunics and shifts. The colors she chooses are the colors of spring itself. She uses a thread of a pale and delicate green, the color of new leaves just beginning to unfurl, a dye she has carefully created from birch leaves. She weaves this in stripes with a thread of a soft, buttery yellow, the color of the primroses that are beginning to appear in the sheltered, sunny spots along the banks of the stream. The sound of her loom, the steady press, clack, thump, seems lighter, more cheerful now, a bright and optimistic rhythm that harmonizes with the sound of the rushing stream and the returning birdsong. Her embroidery, too, takes on the themes of spring. She begins a new project, a decorative border for a small linen bag. On it, she begins to stitch a pattern of delicate white snowdrops, their heads bowed, and the tiny, tightly curled fronds of new ferns, a symbol of life's persistent and beautiful unfolding. She works by the open door, the cool, fresh air on her face, her needle flashing in the bright, clear light. But perhaps the most profound change is in the world of nature itself, a change that the family observes with a quiet, daily reverence. The change is slow, but inexorable. The tight, dark, glossy buds on the branches of the oak tree begin to swell, a visible sign of the life force pushing from within. The willow trees by the stream are the first to show their color, their branches covered in the soft, furry, silver-gray catkins that the children love to touch. And then comes the true miracle of the spring, the return of the green. It begins almost invisibly, a faint greenish haze that seems to hover over the dark, wet soil of the fields. Then you can see them. Millions upon millions of tiny, bright green shoots, the new grass, the wild garlic, the tender leaves of nettles, pushing their way up through the earth with an unstoppable, silent energy. The world, which for so long has been a monochrome of white, gray, and brown, is slowly, beautifully being washed with the color of life. The birds return. One morning, the woman hears a sound she has not heard since the previous autumn, the high, joyful, and impossibly complex song of a skylark, rising and falling in the air high above the fields. Soon other voices join the chorus, the cheerful, fluting call of the blackbird, the sweet, simple song of the chaffinch. The air is once again alive with music, a vibrant and intricate symphony that celebrates the sun's return. The children, who have been confined indoors for so long, are now set free. They spend their days exploring this new, wet and muddy world. They follow the progress of the stream, watching sticks and leaves race by on its swift current. They search for the first wildflowers, their small hands carefully cupping the delicate, velvety petals of a deep purple violet, or the cheerful, sunny face of a lesser celandine. They come home at the end of the day, their clothes and faces smudged with mud, their eyes bright with the joy of discovery, their hands clutching small, precious bouquets of these first brave flowers, which their mother places in a small clay jug of water. A splash of vibrant, living color
in the simple cottage. The world is awakening, stretching and breathing a great collective sigh of relief, and the family, as they have always done, awakens with it. The days of early spring unfold in a sequence of gentle, hopeful progress. Each morning seems to bring a new discovery, a fresh sign that the great, slow, powerful engine of life is moving into a season of creation. The air loses its last vestiges of winter's chill, becoming soft, mild, and filled with the clean, sweet scent of growing things. The sun's warmth is no longer a pale promise, but a tangible, comforting presence, a gentle heat that seems to encourage the world to stretch and grow. One bright, clear morning, after the simple breakfast, the man steps outside and drives a spade into the dark, rich soil of the family's garden patch. The earth yields with a soft, satisfying sigh, turning over in rich, crumbly clods. It is time. The soil is finally warm enough and dry enough for planting. The day's work becomes a shared family ritual, a quiet and joyful collaboration. The loom stands silent. The mending and carving are put aside. Today, all their energy is directed toward this small, vital patch of earth beside the cottage, the place that will provide so much of their sustenance in the months to come. The man does the heavy work of turning over the entire garden bed, his movements strong and rhythmic, his spade rising and falling, a steady beat that is the very pulse of the new season. The woman follows behind him with a heavy wooden rake, breaking up the larger clods of earth, her arms moving in a long, sweeping motion. She pulls out the pale roots of persistent weeds and the larger stones, leaving behind a bed of fine, dark, and fragrant soil. The children work alongside them, their small hands eager to help. They gather the stones and weeds into a woven basket, carrying them to the edge of the garden, their faces serious with the importance of their task. When the soil is prepared, a perfect dark and level canvas, the woman takes out a small, carefully guarded leather pouch. Inside are the seeds they saved from the previous year's harvest. They are the family's future, a tiny, concentrated store of life and potential. She pours a handful into her palm. There are the small, round, pale green seeds of peas, the tiny, black, comma-shaped seeds of onions, the flat white seeds of cabbages, and the rough, crinkly seeds of hardy greens. She shows the children how to make shallow furrows in the soft earth with a pointed stick. Then, with great care, she gives them each a few seeds to plant. She shows them how to space them out, not too close together, to give each one room to grow. The children, their faces inches from the soil, place the seeds one by one into the furrows, their movements full of a gentle reverence. It is a profound lesson, learned not with words, but with their own hands. From these tiny, dry, seemingly lifeless things, great, green, living plants will grow. When all the seeds are planted, they gently cover them with soil, patting the earth down with the palms of their hands. The garden bed looks the same as it did before, but now it is filled with a secret, a promise, a quiet, sleeping magic. The family stands back, their work done, a sense of shared accomplishment and deep, quiet hope filling them. They have done their part. Now they will trust in the sun, the rain, and the mysterious, powerful life force that dwells within the earth. As the family works in their garden, the village around them is alive with a similar energy. The long, quiet isolation of winter has given way to a renewed sense of community. The sound of the blacksmith's hammer rings out from the forge at the center of the hamlet, a sharp, clear, and cheerful sound that echoes off the surrounding hills. He is sharpening plowshares, mending iron tools, and shoeing the horses and oxen that will soon be needed for the heavy work of plowing the great common fields. Other villagers are out and about, their voices carrying on the mild spring air. A neighbor is on his roof, skillfully replacing a section of winter-damaged thatch, his silhouette dark against the bright blue sky. Two women walk back from the stream, balancing wooden buckets of water on their shoulders, their conversation punctuated by laughter. A group of children are playing a game in the muddy track that serves as the village street, their happy shouts a vibrant thread in the tapestry of the day's sounds. The village is like a hive that has been dormant all winter and is now buzzing with a gentle, productive, and joyful energy. Later in the afternoon, the weaver and her family take a walk. They follow the path that runs alongside the rushing, joyful stream. The world is bursting with life. The trees are now covered in a delicate, luminous, pale green mist as their new leaves begin to unfurl. The air is sweet with the fragrance of wildflowers. They see the deep purple of violets, the sunny yellow of primroses, the delicate white of wood anemones, all carpeting the banks of the stream and the floor of the woods. The man points out the tracks of a deer in the soft mud by the water's edge. The woman shows the children a blackbird's nest, a masterpiece of woven grass and mud, tucked securely in the fork of a hawthorn bush. The boy finds a beautiful iridescent beetle, its back shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow, and watches, fascinated, as it slowly makes its way across a mossy stone. It is a day of small wonders, of noticing the intricate, beautiful details of a world being reborn. They return to their cottage as the sun begins to set. The spring sunset is a gentle, lovely affair, painting the western sky in soft, watercolor shades of rose, lavender, and pale gold. They are tired from their work and their walk, a pleasant, bone-deep weariness that feels good and right. The evening meal is simple, but it feels like a feast. They are filled not only with the warm pottage, but with the hopeful, vibrant energy of the spring day. As darkness falls, the air grows cool again, a reminder that the full warmth of summer is still to come. They build a small, cheerful fire in the hearth, more for its companionship than for its heat. The family gathers around it, their faces glowing in the soft light, their hearts full. The long, hard winter has been survived. The season of new life, of growth, of promise has returned. A deep and abiding sense of peace settles over them, a peace born of the eternal, reassuring, and beautiful rhythm of the turning seasons. And now, as our long journey through the seasons comes to a close, let this profound sense of peace and renewal settle over you. Our time in the weaver's cottage, a place outside of time, is drawing to an end. We have witnessed the slow golden days of late summer, the deep insulated quiet of a winter's night, and the joyful, vibrant rebirth of the spring. We have felt the steady, reassuring rhythms of a simple, purposeful life, a life woven from the threads of work and rest, of community and solitude, of the deep and abiding connection to the natural world. The weaver's loom, the farmer's field, the fire on the hearth, these are symbols of a deep and timeless harmony. Allow the memory of these gentle rhythms to soothe your mind.
Let the sound of the loom's steady beat, the rush of the spring stream, the crackle of the fire, and the soft whisper of the wind become a lullaby for your soul. You have been a silent, gentle observer, and now it is time for you to rest. Let the peace of the cottage become your own peace. Let the warmth of the fire become your own warmth. Let the deep, restorative sleep of the weaver's family become your own deep, restorative sleep. The great, slow wheel of the year will continue to turn, just as it always has, and just as it always will. There is a deep comfort in this endless, beautiful cycle of rest and renewal. Allow yourself to become a part of this rhythm. Let go of your day, let go of your thoughts. Let your body feel heavy and warm and completely at ease. You are safe, you are at peace, and it is time to sleep. Drift away now on the gentle current of your own breath, back to the quiet, peaceful landscape of your own deepest dreams. Rest well, sleep deep. The small, cheerful fire in the hearth continues its soft, crackling dance, its warm light pushing back the cool blue shadows of the spring twilight. The family, gathered in its gentle glow, is wrapped in a comfortable and contented silence. The day, so full of the vibrant, hopeful energy of new beginnings, has left them with a pleasant weariness, a sense of purpose fulfilled. The air that drifts through the open doorway is cool and sweet, carrying the rich, clean scent of the damp, freshly turned earth from their garden, mingled with the faint, honeyed perfume of the primroses growing along the stream bank. The sounds of the world outside have changed. The boisterous, joyful chorus of the daytime birds has quieted, replaced by the more subtle and mysterious music of the spring night. From the damp meadows that border the stream, the first tentative chirping calls of crickets begin to rise, a gentle, rhythmic song that will soon swell into the steady chorus of summer. A little further away, the deep, resonant thrum of frogs can be heard, a peaceful, primordial sound that speaks of water and ancient life. The wind, when it stirs, is no longer a winter howl, but a soft, gentle sigh in the new, tender leaves of the great oak tree, a sound like the quiet turning of a page. The children's heads begin to nod, their eyelids growing heavy. The little girl leans against her mother's side, her breathing already beginning to slow and deepen. The boy, trying to stay awake, watches the hypnotic flickering dance of the flames, his gaze soft and unfocused. The day's discoveries, the iridescent beetle, the bird's nest, the feel of the cool earth and the tiny seeds are now beginning to transform, to soften into the strange and wonderful material of dreams. The woman looks at her children, a gentle, knowing smile on her face. She arises, and the man does as well. It is time for rest. The evening ritual of preparing for sleep begins. But it is different now than in the long, dark nights of winter. The heavy bearskin and the extra woolen blankets have been carefully cleaned and put away, stored for another year. The bed is now a lighter, simpler nest of straw and a few soft linen sheets and woolen coverings. The woman leads the sleepy children to the bed, tucking them in with the same soft murmurings and gentle touch. The man does not bar the door tonight. Instead, he closes it, but leaves the wooden shutter on the small opening ajar, allowing the cool, fresh night air and the gentle sounds of the spring evening to filter into the cottage. The profound, insulated silence of winter has been replaced by a soft, living connection to the breathing, waking world outside. He and his wife sit for a few moments more, listening to the night. They do not need to speak. Their shared day of work, of hope, of quiet joy has been a conversation in itself. They feel the deep, steady rhythm of their life, a rhythm that is tied to the turning of the earth and the changing of the seasons. And they feel a profound gratitude for its simple, enduring beauty. Finally, they too retreat to the bed. They bank the fire, leaving just a few embers glowing like sleepy red eyes in the darkness, their faint warmth just enough to take the cool edge off the night air. They lie down, the sounds of the night a gentle, soothing lullaby. The chirping of the crickets, the sigh of the wind in the leaves, the distant thrumming of the frogs. It is the sound of a world teeming with quiet, gentle life. It is a sound of peace, of continuity, of the endless, beautiful cycle of which they are a small but essential part. They close their eyes and surrender to the deep, well-earned rest that awaits them. And now, as the weaver and his family drift into the peaceful, dream-filled sleep of a spring night, our time as a silent observer in their world comes to a gentle end. Our long journey through the seasons is complete. We have felt the warmth of the sun, the bite of the frost, and the soft kiss of a spring breeze. We have heard the rhythms of the loom, the land, and the heart. It is time to let this world recede, to let it become a soft and beautiful memory, a peaceful landscape within your own mind. Let the deep peace of that small, humble cottage become your own. Allow the gentle, steady rhythms of that simpler time to guide your own body and mind into a state of profound and lasting rest. Let your thoughts, which may have followed this story, now begin to settle. Imagine them as the shuttle on the weaver's loom, which flew back and forth with such purpose during the day. Now see it slowing its hurried pace, back and forth, more slowly and more gently, until at last it comes to rest, leaving behind only the beautiful finished pattern of a quiet and peaceful mind. Bring your awareness to your own breathing. Feel it as the gentle, steady current of the stream that flowed past the cottage door. With every breath you exhale, imagine you are releasing all the cares and tensions of your day. See them as small dry leaves dropped onto the surface of the water, and watch as the gentle current carries them away, floating, drifting, further and further downstream until they have disappeared from sight, leaving only a sense of clean, clear, and effortless flow. Feel a gentle warmth beginning to spread through your body, a warmth like that of the glowing embers in the hearth. Let it begin in the soles of your feet, a soft, radiant comfort that soothes and relaxes every muscle. Feel this gentle, glowing warmth rise slowly up through your ankles, your calves, and your knees, melting away any lingering tension. Let it continue its slow journey up into your legs, your hips, and your back, allowing your body to feel heavy, supported, and completely at ease. Feel the warmth spread across your stomach, your chest, and your shoulders, letting them sink down into the surface beneath you.
Let it flow down through your arms to your fingertips, and finally up into your neck, your jaw, and the tiny muscles of your face, leaving you in a state of deep, glowing, and profound relaxation. And know that this time of rest is a time of renewal, just as the spring renewed the earth. Remember the tiny seeds planted in the dark, quiet soil, resting and gathering their strength for the growth to come. In the same way, your mind and body are now resting in this quiet darkness, restoring their energy, healing, and preparing for the new day that will dawn in its own good time. There is nothing more you need to do to make this happen. It is an ancient, natural, and effortless process. All you have to do is let go. Now, the story is over. Your journey is complete. All that remains is the deep, welcoming, and boundless peace of sleep. Give yourself permission to surrender to it completely. Let the last echoes of the stream, the fire, and the loom guide you across the threshold into the silent, peaceful valley of your own dreams. Now, rest now. Let go now. Sleep. Deep, peaceful sleep.